The massive crystal spires of Veltar Prime stretched into the purple sky like frozen lightning. Commander Lihana stepped off the transport ship, her boots clicking against the smooth diamond floor. This was it, humanity's first real chance at joining the galactic community. The other ambassadors had arrived days earlier. The tall, bird-like Cathari representatives preened their feathers nervously. The slug-like Molari delegates left shiny trails wherever they moved. Everyone seemed to know exactly what they were doing except Hana. She adjusted her simple blue uniform and walked toward the massive crystal palace. Inside, the walls pulsed with soft light, and the air hummed with energy. Alien voices echoed through the halls in languages she couldn't understand. "The human arrives," announced a voice that sounded like wind chimes. Princess Kiravel emerged from behind a pillar of pure crystal. She was tall, maybe 7 feet, with skin that looked like polished silver and eyes that glowed like stars. Her movements were graceful, but somehow cold. "Your Highness," Hana bowed slightly. She had practiced this moment 100 times. "Commander Lihana of Earth," the princess said, her voice carrying a slight accent. "You are smaller than I expected." "We make up for it in other ways," Hana replied with a small smile. The princess tilted her head, studying her. "We shall see." The negotiation hall was enormous. Representatives from dozens of species sat around a circular table that seemed to float in midair. Hana found her assigned seat between a creature that looked like a walking tree and something that resembled a giant praying mantis. "The session will continue for 72 standard hours," announced the princess, taking her place at the head of the table. "No breaks, no rest. This is how we determine the strength of potential allies." Hana's stomach dropped. 72 hours without sleep. She glanced around the table. The other ambassadors looked confident, even bored. The bird-like Cathari were already spreading documents with their clawed hands. The slug creatures seemed to be settling in for a long haul. "This is about trade routes through the Andromeda Gateway," the princess continued. "Each species will present their case for why they deserve access." Hour by hour, the negotiations dragged on. The Cathari spoke for 6 hours straight about their ancient claims. The Molari presented complex mathematical equations about shipping efficiency. Other species shared their histories, their technologies, their military strength. By hour 20, the first ambassador collapsed. A reptilian creature from the outer rim simply fell forward onto the table. Guards carried him away without ceremony. "Weakness," Princess Kiravel said quietly, making notes on a crystal tablet. By hour 36, half the table was empty. The tree-like being had started drooping, then walked out muttering about impossible standards. The mantis creature's antennae had stopped moving entirely. Hana felt exhaustion creeping in. Her eyes burned, and her hands shook slightly as she sipped water from a crystal cup. But she stayed focused, asking questions, taking notes, contributing to discussions about shipping lanes and resource allocation. Hour 48 came and went. Only 5 ambassadors remained. Hour 60 arrived like a slow death. The Cathari delegation leader was swaying in his seat, his bright feathers dulled with fatigue. Princess Kiravel never seemed tired. She moved through the hall like a silver ghost, her glowing eyes missing nothing. Hana caught her staring several times, but the princess always looked away quickly. By hour 70, only Hana and 1 Molari remained conscious. The slug creature was making soft whistling sounds, probably their version of snoring while still technically awake. "Impressive," the princess said as the final hour approached. "The human endures." The explosion happened at dawn. Hana was walking back to the human embassy after another long night of negotiations when the ground shook beneath her feet. A massive fireball erupted from the embassy building, sending crystal fragments flying like deadly rain. The blast was so powerful it cracked. Windows 3 blocks away, she ran toward the flames, her heart pounding. Inside that building were 37 people, her people, diplomats, security staff, translators, engineers who had volunteered for this mission to make history. "Stay back!" Veltar security forces surrounded the burning building. Their crystal armor gleamed as they formed a protective barrier. "Nobody gets through!" Hana pushed against them anyway. "Those are my people in there. I need to help." Commander Lee, a familiar voice, called out. Ambassador Park Min-ho appeared through the smoke, his face pale and his expensive suit torn. He was supposed to be inside the embassy. Thank the stars. "You're alive!" "Min-ho, how many got out? Who's still inside?" His expression was strange, almost guilty. "Hana, we need to talk. Now." Before she could respond, Princess Kiravel arrived with a full security detail. Her silver skin seemed to glow, brighter in the firelight. "What happened here?" "Terrorist attack, Your Highness," reported the security chief. "Preliminary scans show the explosion came from inside the building. Chemical signatures match Earth military explosives." Hana's blood turned cold. "That's impossible. We don't have military explosives. This was a diplomatic mission." The princess studied her carefully. "Commander Lee, where were you when this happened?" Walking back from the negotiations hall. "I can prove it. The security cameras will show." "The cameras were disabled 20 minutes before the explosion." The security chief interrupted. "Very convenient timing." More evidence appeared quickly. Too quickly. Security teams found traces of Earth explosives in Hana's quarters. They discovered encrypted messages on her personal device, messages she had never seen before, discussing plans to send a message to the Veltar Empire. "This is a setup," Hana said, but her voice sounded weak even to herself. "Someone planted this evidence." Ambassador Park stepped forward, his face grim. "Hana, I'm sorry. The evidence is overwhelming. Earth cannot be associated with terrorism. I'm officially relieving you of command and placing you under arrest." "What?" Hana stared at him in shock. "Min-ho, you know me. We've worked together for 5 years. You know I would never—" "I know what the evidence shows," he said, refusing to meet her eyes. "And I know Earth's reputation is more important than one person's feelings." The other surviving humans nodded in agreement. People she had trained with, laughed with, shared meals with during the long journey to Veltar Prime. They all turned their backs on her. "Take her away," Park ordered the Veltar guards. As crystal shackles locked around her wrists, Hana caught Princess Kiravel watching the scene with those glowing eyes. The princess looked thoughtful, almost suspicious, but not of Hana. "Wait," the princess said suddenly. "I want to examine the evidence myself." "Your Highness, that's not necessary," the security chief replied. "The case is clear." "Nothing is clear until I say it is." Princess Kiravel stepped closer to Hana. "You were in negotiations for 3 days straight. You barely slept. When would you have had time to plan something like this?" "Terrorists don't need much time," Ambassador Park said quickly. Commander Lee had access to the building, knowledge of security protocols, and clearly had help from inside. But Princess Kiravel was still studying Hana's face. "You're not acting like someone who just committed mass murder. You're acting like someone who's been betrayed." "Because I have been," Hana said quietly. "Someone wanted this to happen. Someone wanted humans to look like terrorists." The princess was quiet for a long moment. Then she whispered something to her guard captain. "Take her to the detention center, but use the secure route through the palace for her own protection." The detention center never came. Instead, Princess Kiravel led Hana through a maze of crystal, corridors that seemed to twist and bend like living things. The guards following them grew fewer with each turn, until finally it was just the two of them walking in silence. "Where are we going?" Hana asked, her shackles clinking softly with. "Each step, somewhere safe," the princess replied without looking back. "Somewhere my father's security forces won't think to look." They descended through levels Hana didn't know existed. The crystal walls here were older, rougher, filled with a deep blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Ancient symbols covered every surface, telling stories in a language that had been forgotten for centuries. "The Royal Archives," Princess Kiravel said as they entered a vast chamber filled with floating crystal tablets. "Knowledge from before my people learned to speak with other worlds. Very few are allowed here." "Why are you helping me?" Hana asked, as the princess removed her shackles with a small crystal key. "Because something about this whole situation stinks," the princess said bluntly. "The evidence appeared too fast. Your people abandoned you too easily. And you—" She studied Hana's face. "You have the eyes of someone telling the truth." Hana rubbed her sore wrists. What happens now? Now we wait. My security forces will search the obvious places while I figure out who really wants humans to look like terrorists. The princess gestured to the floating tablets around them. Feel free to explore. Just don't touch the red crystals. They contain our most dangerous knowledge. Days passed in the strange blue twilight of the archives. Hana slept on a simple crystal bed and ate food the princess smuggled down from the palace kitchens. It was during her third day there that she noticed something odd. One section of the archive seemed different. The tablets here weren't floating properly. Instead, they hovered at strange angles, as if they were trying to form some kind of pattern but couldn't quite manage it. "What's wrong with these?" Hana asked when the princess visited that evening. Kiravel sighed deeply. "The puzzle of Velkani. It's been like that for 1,000 years. Our greatest minds have tried to solve it, but the tablets won't align properly. Legend says they contain the location of our people's birth world, but without the correct pattern." Hana studied the floating crystals. There were dozens of them, each one covered with symbols and star charts. To Veltar eyes, trained to see logic and mathematical precision, they probably looked chaotic. But to human eyes, used to finding patterns in randomness, "It's not about logic," Hana said suddenly. "It's about emotion." "What do you mean?" Hana moved closer to the tablets. "Look at these symbols. They're not just star charts, they're stories. Your ancestors didn't just record where they came from. They recorded how they felt about leaving." She began moving the tablets, not according to mathematical principles, but following the emotional flow of the symbols. This tablet showed grief, so it belonged near the one showing loss. This one showed hope, so it connected to the one showing new beginnings. Princess Kiravel watched in amazement as the tablets began to glow brighter. "How did you know?" "Humans don't just think with our brains," Hana explained, still working. "We think with our hearts, too. Sometimes the heart sees patterns the mind misses." The final tablet clicked into place, and suddenly the entire section blazed with golden light. The star charts aligned, showing a clear path through space to a distant world covered in the same blue crystals that made up the archives. "Incredible," the princess whispered. "In 3 days, you solved what our scholars couldn't solve in a millennium." Hana stepped back, exhausted but proud. Different doesn't mean wrong, it just means different. That night, as they shared a simple meal in the archives, Princess Kiravel looked at Hana with new respect. "Your people cast you out so easily. Don't they know what they're losing?" "Fear makes people do stupid things," Hana said sadly. "They're probably hoping that if they abandon me completely, the galaxy will forget that humans were involved." "Their loss is my gain," the princess said quietly. "I'm beginning to understand why you impressed me during those negotiations. Humans don't just endure, you adapt. You find solutions others miss." The alarm crystals started screaming at dawn. Hana woke to Princess Kiravel shaking her shoulder urgently. "They found us. Bounty hunters are in the palace." "How many?" Hana was already pulling on her boots. "Too many." Word spread through the underground networks. "There's a price on your head. 50,000 galactic credits for capture. 100,000 for proof of death." Hana's stomach dropped. That kind of money would attract every desperate criminal in 3 star systems. "Who put up the bounty?" "Unknown benefactor. But whoever it is, they want you gone permanently." They could hear heavy footsteps echoing through the crystal corridors above. Multiple species by the sound of it. The heavy thud of Gorak mercenaries, the skittering clicks of insectoid hunters, and something else that made the walls vibrate with each step. "There's a service tunnel that leads to the lower city," the princess said, leading Hana toward a hidden panel. "From there you can reach the transport hub." "What about you?" "I'll be fine. They want you, not me." The service tunnel was narrow and dark, forcing Hana to crawl through sections that scraped her shoulders raw. She emerged in an alley behind a crystal processing plant, the air thick with glittering dust that made her sneeze. The lower city was a maze of narrow streets and towering spires where ordinary Veltar citizens lived and worked. Market stalls sold strange fruits that glowed in the dim light. Children with silver skin played games with floating crystal balls. Hana tried to blend in, pulling her jacket hood over her distinctive human features. But she stood out like a broken finger. Her skin was too dark, her movements too different. Whispers followed her through the streets. There, the human terrorist. Hana spun around to see a group of Gorak bounty hunters pushing through the crowd. They were 8 feet tall, covered in thick grey hide, with tusks that could punch through steel. Their leader pointed directly at her with a massive finger. 50,000 credits, dead or alive, Hana ran. Behind her, the Goraks smashed through. Market stalls like they were made of paper. Frightened civilians scattered in all directions, but the narrow streets meant there was nowhere to go. A mother with 2 small children stumbled and fell directly in the path of the charging bounty hunters. The Goraks didn't slow down. In their culture, weaklings who couldn't get out of the way deserved whatever happened to them. Hana didn't think. She just moved. She dove sideways, tackling the mother and children out of the path just as the lead Gorak's massive boot slammed into the crystal pavement where they had been lying. The impact sent spiderweb cracks shooting through the street. "Keep running," Hana shouted to the family, helping them to their feet. But now she had lost precious seconds. More bounty hunters were closing in from other directions. She could see insectoid hunters skittering along the walls like giant spiders, and something that looked like a walking tree was blocking the main street ahead. "This way." A young Veltar boy grabbed her hand and pulled her into a side alley. "Quick, follow me." They ran through a series of interconnected courtyards where crystal artisans worked at their benches. The boy knew every shortcut, every hidden passage. But their pursuers were gaining ground. A plasma bolt sizzled past Hana's ear, leaving a smoking hole in a crystal wall. One of the insectoid hunters had found a clear shot from a rooftop. "Down here." The boy pulled her into a drainage tunnel, just as more energy blasts lit up the air above them. They crawled through the tunnel until they reached a grate that opened onto a busy plaza. Hana pushed through first, then helped the boy up. "Why did you help me?" she asked. "You saved my aunt and cousins back there," he said simply. Nobody else would have stopped running to help strangers. Princess Kiravel appeared from behind a crystal fountain flanked by her royal guards. "I saw what you did," she said breathlessly. "You risked your life for people you don't even know." "They needed help," Hana said, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. The princess stared at her for a long moment. "My people have honor codes and duty protocols. We help our families, our clans, our allies. But you helped complete. Strangers because they were in danger. No calculation, no benefit to yourself." More shouts echoed from the alleys behind them. The bounty hunters were still coming. "We need to move," Hana said. "Yes," the princess agreed. "But first I need to ask you something. Is this normal for humans? This instinct to protect others?" "Pretty normal, yeah." Princess Kiravel smiled for the first time since Hana had met her. "Then my people have a lot to learn from yours." The encrypted datapad sat between them like a smoking bomb. Princess Kiravel had found it hidden in the wreckage of the human embassy, buried under twisted metal and crystal fragments. For 3 days, they had worked together in a secret location to crack its encryption, using human pattern recognition combined with Veltar computational power. "This changes everything," Hana whispered, staring at the screen. The files were damning. Communication logs between hegemony agents and someone. Inside the Veltar government, payment records showing massive bribes. Most shocking of all, detailed plans for the embassy bombing, including the exact type of explosives used and how to plant evidence pointing to humans. "Look at this timestamp." Kiravel pointed to one message. "This was sent 3 days before. You even arrived on our world. They planned this from the beginning." Hana felt sick. They never intended to let the negotiations succeed. They wanted humans to look like terrorists, so the galaxy would never trust us. "The hegemony has been trying to prevent new species from joining the galactic community for decades," the princess said grimly. "They want to maintain their monopoly on trade routes and military contracts. But why frame me specifically? Because you impressed my people. If humans had succeeded in joining our alliance, it would have cost the hegemony billions in lost profits. The evidence was clear, but proving it would be dangerous. The hegemony had agents everywhere, and according to these files, several high-ranking Veltar officials were on their payroll. "We need to present this to the High Council," Kiravel said. "My father must see this." The throne room was packed when they arrived. Emperor Velkanos sat on his crystal throne, his ancient face carved from living diamond. The High Council members flanked him on both sides, their silver robes gleaming in the chamber's blue light. General Torvas stood near the Emperor's right hand. He was Princess Kiravel's betrothed, a military hero who had led successful campaigns against pirates and rebels. His crystal armor was polished to perfection, and his reputation was spotless. "Father," Princess Kiravel stepped forward, holding the datapad. "I have evidence that will change everything. The human Commander Li has been framed." Murmurs rippled through the assembled council members. Emperor Velkanos raised a hand for silence. "Daughter, you have been missing for days. We were told you were kidnapped by the terrorist. I was investigating the truth," she replied firmly. "And I found it." She activated the datapad, projecting the evidence for all to see. Communication logs, payment records, bombing plans, everything laid out in crystal-clear detail. "The hegemony orchestrated the embassy attack," she announced. "They paid agents within our own government to plant evidence and frame Commander Li." The room erupted in shocked voices. Some council members looked genuinely surprised, while others seemed uncomfortable, as if they already knew more than they should. General Torvas stepped forward, his face dark with anger. "Kiravel, what have you done?" "I've uncovered the truth, Torvas. Isn't that what matters?" "What matters is that you've been consorting with a known terrorist." His voice echoed through the chamber. "You've been alone with her for days. How do we know she hasn't corrupted your judgment? How do we know this evidence isn't fabricated?" "Because I know her character," the princess replied. "She saved innocent lives during the bounty hunter chase. She solved puzzles our greatest minds couldn't crack. She is not capable of mass murder." "You've been seduced by alien lies," General Torvas declared. "The princess has been compromised. Her judgment can no longer be trusted." Several council members nodded in agreement. Hannah could see the political calculation in their eyes. Apporting her meant risking conflict with the powerful hegemony. It was safer to sacrifice one human, and even a princess, than to face potential war. "The evidence speaks for itself," Hannah said, stepping forward. "I don't care what happens to me, but the truth should matter." "The truth," said Councillor Melveron, one of the Emperor's oldest advisors, "is that associating with you has made our princess unfit for leadership. She has put emotion above duty, alien loyalty above her own people." Emperor Velkanos looked older than his 1,000 years as he studied his daughter. "Kiravel, you are my heir, but you have shown poor judgment. Consorting with accused terrorists, disappearing from your duties, bringing unverified evidence. Father, please look at the data. Verify it yourself." "I have made my decision." The Emperor's voice was heavy with sadness, but firm with resolve. "Until further notice, you are stripped of your titles and removed from the line of succession. General Torvas will take over your diplomatic duties." The princess stood frozen in shock. Hannah watched as everything the woman had worked for, everything she was, got ripped away in a single moment. "You're making a mistake," Hannah said quietly. "She's the best person in this room, and you're throwing her away to protect your political relationships." "Silence," General Torvas barked. "You've done enough damage." But Princess Kiravel straightened her shoulders and looked directly at Hannah. "No," she said clearly. "She's done something my own people couldn't do. She's shown me what real loyalty looks like." The Emperor's expression was pained but unchanged. "Take them both away." The cell they shared was cold and carved from a single piece of black crystal. Princess Kiravel sat on the narrow bench, still wearing her royal robes, but they seemed different now. Stripped of her titles, she looked smaller somehow, more fragile. The silver light that usually emanated from her skin had dimmed to barely a glow. "I'm sorry," Hannah said for the 100th time. "This is all my fault." "Stop saying that," Kiravel replied quietly. "You didn't ask for any of this." Through the crystal walls, they could hear voices in the corridor outside. Hannah recognized some of them, members of the princess's personal council, people who had served her for years. "She's lost her mind," Councillor Yeltar was saying. "Choosing a terrorist over her own people, it's unthinkable." "The princess we knew is gone," agreed Captain Nevron, who had commanded her personal guard. "This creature has corrupted her somehow." Kiravel's Shoulders sagged as she listened to her former allies discussing her, like she was already dead. "They're not wrong," she said softly. "I have changed. Before I met you, I thought honor meant following rules and maintaining order. Now I understand it means standing up for what's right, even when everyone else is wrong." The next morning brought more visitors. Kiravel's younger brother, Prince Melkatan, arrived with a formal delegation. Hana watched through the cell's viewing panel as he spoke with his sister in the visitor's chamber. "Sister, you can still fix this," his voice carried through the crystal walls. "Denounce the human. Admit you were manipulated. Father might restore your titles if you show proper contrition." "And what about the truth?" Kiravel asked. "What about the real evidence we found?" "The truth is whatever serves our people best," he replied coldly. "Your duty is to the throne, not to some alien terrorist." "She's not a terrorist." "Then prove it, without destroying our family's reputation in the process." When Kiravel refused, her brother left without another word. Hana saw the pain in the princess's glowing eyes as her own family walked away. General Torvus came next, his crystal armor reflecting the harsh prison lights. He stood outside their cell, his face carved from stone. "My betrothed," he said formally, "I offer you one final chance. Renounce your association with this creature. Return to your proper place at my side. And if I refuse, then our engagement is ended. I will not tie my future to someone who chooses aliens over her own kind." Kiravel looked at Hana, then back at Torvus. "Then it's ended." The general's face showed no emotion as he removed the engagement crystal from his armor and let it fall to the floor, where it shattered into 1,000 pieces. Even the servants abandoned her. People who had worked in the royal household for generations suddenly found excuses to avoid the princess. Food deliveries to their cell became irregular. Messages went unanswered. "You gave up everything for me," Hana said one evening as they shared a meager meal of bread and water. "Your titles, your family, your future. Why?" Kiravel was quiet for a long moment. "Do you know what I've learned about humans during our time together?" "What?" "You don't abandon people just because it's convenient. Even when your own diplomats threw you away to save their careers. You didn't become bitter. You didn't stop caring about others." Hana thought about the family she had saved during the bounty hunter chase, the way she had risked everything to protect strangers. "That's just who we are," she said simply. "Exactly," Kiravel smiled sadly. "My people talk about honor, but we only show loyalty to those who can benefit us. You show loyalty to people simply because they need it. That's something worth protecting." Through their cell window, they could see the crystal city spreading out below. Somewhere out there, the real conspirators were free while they sat in prison. "The hegemony's plan was working perfectly. They're going to execute us, aren't they?" Hana asked. "Probably. But I want you to know something." Kiravel turned to face her fully. "Meeting you changed me. Before I thought strength meant never showing weakness. Now I know that real strength is standing by your principles, even when the whole world turns against you. Even if it costs you everything. Especially then." Outside their cell, footsteps echoed in the corridor. More visitors, more former allies, coming to tell the princess how disappointed they were in her choices. But Kiravel didn't seem to hear them anymore. She had found something her people had lost long ago, the courage to choose what was right instead of what was easy. "I'm not going anywhere," she said firmly. "Whatever happens next, you won't face it alone." For the first time since this nightmare began, Hana felt like she wasn't fighting the entire galaxy by herself. The trial chamber was packed with representatives from across the galaxy. Hana stood in the center of the crystal circle, wearing simple prisoner's clothes, while cameras broadcast her final moments to billions of viewers. This was supposed to be her execution, but she had invoked an ancient Veltar law that even Emperor Velkanos couldn't ignore. "Trial by ordeal," she had declared 3 days earlier. "I demand the right to prove my innocence through action, not words." The Emperor had been forced to agree, though his expression made it clear he thought she was simply delaying the inevitable. "Accused will face 3 tests," announced the court herald. "Tests of wisdom, courage, and sacrifice. Only by passing all 3 can she prove her worthiness to live." Hana glanced toward the viewing gallery where Princess Kiravel sat under guard. The princess gave her an encouraging nod, though her silver skin looked pale with worry. The first test began immediately. Ancient Veltar scholars presented Hana with a series of impossible puzzles, mathematical problems that had stumped their greatest minds for centuries. But Hana approached them the same way she had solved the archive puzzle, not with pure logic, but with intuition and pattern recognition. Within 2 hours, she had solved problems that should have taken weeks. The crowd murmured in amazement, but Hana knew the real challenges were still coming. The second test was supposed to be combat against the Empire's greatest warriors, but as they prepared to begin, alarms started screaming throughout the capital city, hegemony ships dropping. Out of hyperspace, security forces rushed through the palace corridors, multiple battle cruisers approaching the capital. Emperor Velkanos rose from his throne, his ancient face grim. They're making their move. With or without the trial's outcome, they intend to end the human question permanently. Through the massive crystal windows, Hana could see dark shapes descending through the purple sky. Hegemony warships bristling with weapons, heading straight for the heart of the city. "Get everyone to the emergency shelters," she said automatically. "You're still a prisoner," General Torvus reminded her coldly. "This isn't your concern." The first bombardment struck the outer districts. Crystal buildings shattered like glass, sending deadly fragments raining down on the streets below. Hana watched civilian transports fleeing through the city, overloaded with families trying to escape. "Unlock these restraints," she demanded. "Absolutely not," the general replied. But Princess Kiravel was already moving. She grabbed the crystal, key from a surprised guard, and freed Hana's hands. "What are you doing?" her father demanded. "The right thing," she replied. Hana ran toward the palace's emergency response center, pushing past guards who were too confused to stop her. The screen showed chaos throughout the city, evacuation routes clogged with refugees, emergency services overwhelmed, and hegemony ground forces beginning to land. "Your civilian shields are failing," she announced to the room full of Veltar officers. "You need to reroute power from the non-essential sectors." "We don't take orders from terrorists," General Torvus had followed her. "Then watch your people die for your pride," Hana shot back, already working at one of the control panels. Another massive explosion rocked the palace. Through the windows, she could see a hegemony dropship crash landing in the main plaza, spilling armed soldiers onto the crystal streets. "They're targeting the evacuation centers," Princess Kiravel observed, studying the tactical displays. "They want maximum civilian casualties to blame on human terrorism." Hana's blood ran cold. Thousands of innocent people were trapped in those shelters, including the families she had helped during the bounty hunter chase. "I'm going down there," she announced. "That's suicide," Kiravel protested. "You'll be killed the moment you step outside." "Maybe. But I can't sit here and watch innocent people die." She headed for the palace's main entrance, where Veltar security forces were setting up defensive positions. The plaza outside was a war zone, energy blasts lighting up the sky, crystal debris everywhere, and hegemony soldiers advancing on the civilian shelters. "Give me a weapon," Hana demanded from the security captain. "You're insane if you think—" "Give her the weapon," Princess Kiravel ordered, arriving with her own crystal blade drawn. "Your Highness, you can't—" "I can and I will. Together they—" I charged into the battle outside. Hana had never fought in real combat before, but human reflexes and training kicked in. She threw herself between hegemony soldiers and fleeing civilians, drawing enemy fire away from the vulnerable. A hegemony blast barely missed her head, scorching the crystal wall behind her. She rolled for cover and found herself next to General Torvus, who had also joined the fight. "Why?" he demanded, breathing hard. "Why risk yourself for people who condemned you?" "Because they're people," Hana replied, returning fire at advancing soldiers. "That's reason enough." Something in her voice must have gotten through to him. The general looked at her with new eyes, perhaps seeing for the first time what Princess Kiravel had been trying to tell them all along. As the battle raged, other things began to change. Veltar civilians who had been calling for Hana's execution now watched her shield their children from enemy fire. Council members who had voted to strip Kiravel of her titles saw the princess fighting alongside the woman she had refused to abandon. When hegemony reinforcements arrived, and the situation looked hopeless, It was Councillor Melvaran who stepped forward with a confession. "I was paid by the hegemony," he announced over the emergency broadcast system. "They promised me wealth and power if I helped frame the human. The princess was right. Commander Lee is innocent." The hegemony retreat left the capital in ruins. But the truth had finally emerged. Councillor Melvaran's confession during the battle had opened the floodgates. Other corrupted officials stepped forward, terrified of being discovered as traitors. Communication logs were unsealed, bank records examined, and the full scope of the conspiracy revealed to the galaxy. Hana stood in the rebuilt throne room, no longer wearing prisoner's clothes, but a formal diplomatic uniform. Earth's new ambassador, Kim Ji-won, had arrived 3 days earlier with a full honor guard and official apologies from the human government. "Commander Lee," Ambassador Kim said formally, "Earth extends its deepest regrets for the treatment you received from our previous diplomatic team. Ambassador Park Min-ho has been relieved of duty and is facing criminal charges for abandoning a fellow human in need." The irony wasn't lost on Hana. The same people who had thrown her away now wanted to claim her as a hero. "You're being offered a promotion to Admiral," the ambassador continued. "Command of Earth's first interstellar fleet. A position that comes with wealth, prestige, and a place in history books." Emperor Velkanos, looking older but wiser than before, nodded approvingly. "Commander Lee has proven herself worthy of any honor Earth chooses to bestow. My daughter's judgment was correct as always. Princess Kiravel had been restored to her. Full titles and position as heir." General Torvas, deeply ashamed of his behavior, had formally ended their engagement and requested transfer to a distant military outpost. The princess was free to choose her own path for the first time in her life. "There is, however, a complication," Emperor Velkanos continued. "My daughter has made a request that presents certain challenges." All eyes turned to Princess Kiravel, who stepped forward with the same grace she had shown during their first meeting. But now her silver skin glowed with determination rather than cold duty. "I formally request Commander Lee Hana as my chosen mate," she announced to the assembled crowd. The throne room erupted in shocked whispers. Ambassador Kim's face went pale. Even some of Kiravel's own council members looked stunned. "Your Highness," one elderly advisor stammered, "the political implications. An alien mate would complicate succession laws, trade agreements, military alliances." "I am aware of the complications," the princess replied calmly. "I am also aware that Commander Lee has shown more loyalty, courage, and wisdom than any potential mate my father's advisors have ever suggested." Hana felt the weight of every gaze in the room. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about the future of human-alien relations, about whether love could exist across the vast differences between species, about whether political convenience would always triumph over personal choice. "Hana," Princess Kiravel turned to, "face her directly. I know what I'm asking. If you accept, you'll never be able to return to Earth as a normal citizen. You'll be part of alien royalty, subject to protocols and duties you never chose. Your children, if we have any, will be hybrids, who belong fully to neither world. And if I refuse? Then you return to Earth as a hero. You take command of your fleet. You live the life your people always planned for you." The princess's voice was steady, but Hana could see the fear in her glowing eyes. "I will not hold it against you. You've already given me more than I ever deserved." Ambassador Kim leaned forward eagerly. "Commander, you must consider the broader implications. This is uncharted territory. No human has ever joined an alien royal family. The legal complexities alone would be worked out eventually," Hana said quietly. "Everything worth doing is complicated at first." She thought about everything that had brought her to this moment. The loneliness of being abandoned by her own people. The courage Kiravel had shown in choosing truth over comfort. The way the princess had stood by her when the entire galaxy wanted her dead. "I've spent my whole life serving Earth," Hana continued. "Following orders, completing missions, putting duty above personal desires. For once, I want to make a choice, based on what I actually want, not what's expected of me." "And what do you want?" Princess Kiravel asked softly. Hana smiled, feeling lighter than she had in years. "I want to stay with the person who saw something worth saving in me when no one else did. I want to help build something new between our peoples. and I want to see what happens when two very different worlds try to become one. The princess's silver skin blazed with joy as Hana continued. But I have conditions. I keep my human citizenship. Our children, if we have them, get to choose which world they want to call home when they're old enough. And I want regular communication with Earth, even if some humans think I'm a traitor for choosing love over species loyalty. Agreed, Princess Kiravel said immediately. Emperor Velkanos looked around the throne room, seeing the mixture of excitement and concern on the faces of his advisors. This union will create precedents that will echo through galactic history. Are you both certain this is what you want? Absolutely, they said in unison. Ambassador Kim was already calculating the political ramifications, but Hana no longer cared about politics. She had found something worth more than fame or glory, or the approval of people who had never really known her anyway. She had found someone who would stand by her side no matter what the galaxy threw at them. The wedding ceremony took place under the twin moons of Veltar Prime, with representatives from 50 different worlds in attendance. Hana wore a dress that combined human silk with Veltar crystal threads, creating a gown that seemed to capture starlight itself. Princess Kiravel's traditional silver robes had been modified to include earth flowers, roses that somehow thrived in the alien soil, their red petals a striking contrast against the crystal architecture. This is either the most romantic thing I've ever seen or the most politically dangerous, Ambassador Kim whispered to his aide as they watched the ceremony unfold. Probably both, the aide replied. The vows were spoken in both languages, human words mixing with the musical tones of ancient Veltar. When Hana promised to stand by your side through whatever storms may come, her voice carried across the Crystal Plaza, where thousands of citizens had gathered to witness history being made. But the real changes began after the ceremony ended. Within a month, the first joint human Veltar research station was established. Human creativity combined with Veltar precision led to breakthroughs neither species could have achieved alone. They developed new medicines, faster communication systems, and most importantly, translation technology that made real understanding possible between different worlds. It's remarkable, Dr. Park So-min, Earth's lead xenobiologist, reported during a video call with Earth's Science Council. Princess Kiravel's people think in mathematical concepts we never considered, while Commander Lee's human intuition helps them see solutions they miss with pure logic. The marriage had created something neither government had expected, a living bridge between two very different ways of thinking. 6 months later, when the hegemony launched a massive assault on a peaceful trading world, it was the Human Veltar Alliance that responded first. Hana commanded the joint fleet, using human tactical flexibility, combined with Veltar technological superiority, to drive off the attackers with minimal casualties. The hegemony expected us to fight like separate species, Hana explained during the post-battle briefing. Instead, we fought like a unified force. They weren't prepared for that. Other worlds took notice. The Cathari bird people, who had always remained neutral in galactic conflicts, requested membership in the growing alliance. The peaceful Molari slug creatures offered their advanced medical knowledge. Even some former hegemony worlds began secretly reaching out, tired of being ruled by fear and intimidation. But the most significant changes happened on a personal level. Hana and Kiravel's first child was born 2 years after their wedding, a daughter who looked human, but had her mother's silver-tinged skin and the ability to communicate in both spoken words and the light-based language of the Veltar. Little Mira became a symbol of hope for millions of beings across the galaxy. She's not human or Veltar, Hana said, holding her daughter during a diplomatic reception. She's something new, something that belongs to all of us. The child grew up speaking a dozen languages, understanding concepts from multiple worlds, and seeing the galaxy not as a collection of separate species, but as one vast family with different talents and perspectives. By her 5th birthday, there were similar children on dozens of worlds, the offspring of marriages that had become possible only because one human and one alien princess had proven that love could exist across any distance. "Do you ever regret it?" Kiravel asked one evening, as they watched their daughter play with children from 6 different species in the palace gardens. Regret what? Giving up your chance to be a human hero. You could have been famous throughout Earth's history. Instead, you're famous throughout galactic history. Hana laughed, pulling her wife closer, as the alien sunset painted the crystal city in shades of gold and purple. I think I got the better deal. The hegemony still existed, still caused trouble in distant sectors, but their power was broken. Too many worlds had seen what cooperation could accomplish. Too many beings had witnessed what happened when different species chose trust over fear. Earth's children now grew up knowing that humans weren't alone in the universe. More importantly, they grew up believing that being different wasn't something to fear. It was something to celebrate. The galaxy is changing, Hana observed, watching her daughter teach a young Cathari how to solve puzzles using human intuition methods. Yes, Kiravel agreed, and it's changing because one stubborn human refused to give up on doing the right thing, even when everyone else had given up on her. And one brave princess chose to stand by that stubborn human. As the twin moons rose, over the crystal city, casting their silver light across a world where human laughter mixed with alien songs, it was clear that the greatest human achievement wasn't conquering space or building powerful weapons. It was proving that in a vast, dark universe, the courage to trust and be trusted could light up entire worlds.